Welcome to r/Bestof Redditor Updates, where OP gets his parents arrested with felony charges. Our next Reddit post is from r/Credit Score. My parents opened up several credit cards in my name while I was away at college. They racked up more than $15,000 in debt, and now they want to kick me out because I brought it up. I guess this is a lesson in paying attention to my finances. After having just finished my freshman year of college, I came back to my parents' house for the summer. My mom made it a habit on Monday or Tuesday to make sure that she got the mail before I had a chance to. She even ran out of the kitchen on Tuesday to make sure that I didn't get it because I was expecting an Amazon order. Today, the mail came kind of early, and there was a letter from a collection agency addressed to me. I only knew that it was a collection agency once I opened the letter and discovered that I supposedly owed nearly $5,000 on a Capital One card that I had no idea I was ever signed up for. Once I was done freaking out, I called my dad at work and asked him what to do. It was weird when he said, "Talk to your mother about it." He didn't seem happy at all, but I didn't think much of it. Once my mom got home, I asked her about it, and she said that her and my dad opened up a few credit cards in my name for household expenses. She said that she thinks that I owe around $10,000 to 3 different credit card companies. I checked my credit, and it turns out that I owe over $15,000. We ended up having a huge argument about it, with my mom saying that her parents did this to her when she was 18. She said that I could file for bankruptcy and that it wouldn't hurt me because I wouldn't be trying to buy a house for several years. I'm interested in going into a government-related job, and a bankruptcy would probably disqualify me for it. My mom knows this, but it doesn't seem like she cares. My dad got home a couple of hours ago, and they talked to me together. Either I can declare bankruptcy after they're done spending on the cards, or I could move out at the end of the month. Funny how they forget to mention option C, which is call the cops, but let's continue. It just feels like it's incredibly unfair because it doesn't sound like bankruptcy will actually do anything for my credit, and it'll probably sink my job opportunities. How can I get my credit score back to where it was, which was around 720, and how can I get this to not affect my credit going forward? Alright, down in the comments, people are pointing out just how illegal this is. Checking Out says, "This is identity theft. It's a felony. The ball is in your courts. You could easily have them arrested, and you could put a lien on their property." And other people are pointing out, "You're a tenant. They can't just kick you out. They have to evict you." Then, 1 month later, OP posted an update. I ended up taking the advice of the vast majority of people here, and I filed a police report. The officer took some printouts of everything as evidence. Once I had the report, I called all the credit cards that I had a debt to, and I gave them the police report number. The 3 credit card companies all took this, and they were pretty cool with it. The collection agency wanted me to make a goodwill payment so they could start investigating my claim that it was fraudulent. They said they could still sue me even with the police report if I didn't cooperate with their fraud reports. I refused, obviously, because I don't want them to be able to take money out of my bank account. I never told my parents that I went to the police, and for a couple of weeks, they had no idea. Man, I love that turnaround. Right after Memorial Day, they received a call from a detective, and everything blew up. After the call, they began screaming at me, and my dad started literally throwing my things out the door. At that point, I called the cops and they showed up, and they told my parents that if they wanted me to leave, they would have to evict me. I came home from work the next day and the locks were changed. I called the police again, and my parents refused to open the door and said that all my stuff was at my grandparents' house. I received another report for the unlawful eviction, which I was told was a civil issue, and got my stuff from my grandparents. Luckily, I have a friend with a couple of spare bedrooms, and she said that I'm welcome to stay with her for a couple of months. I'm scheduled to move into my own place in about a week. Once I get a full tally of the total cost of everything included in moving, I'll be filing a civil lawsuit against my parents for the unlawful eviction. I was told by the same detective that my parents didn't seem very truthful with anything, and my state's attorney office will be in contact in the next few weeks regarding identity theft charges. He said he believes they'll likely prosecute, possibly as soon as this week. If that's the case, my parents, or more likely just my mom, will be issued a warrant and have to spend at least a night in jail. No matter what, I feel as though I made the right choice. Man, the world was just completely stacked against OP, and OP still managed to make the right decisions. His parents were stealing from him, the collection agencies were straight up lying to him. But hey, Reddit pulled through and saved OP from financial ruin. And I just love that OP didn't tell his parents because, after all, they didn't tell OP about the credit card debt, so why should he tell them about the felony investigation? Whoops, sorry, Mom and Dad. Our next Reddit post comes from rSlash relationships. At the time of this event, I was a 27-year-old woman and my boyfriend was 27 as well. A year ago, I was about to move in with my first serious boyfriend, Josh, with whom I was head over heels in love, when one of my closest friends said that Josh had shown them a nude photo of me on his phone when he was drunk during a party. 5 or 6 more of my friends corroborated the story and told me that Josh also talked in extreme detail about our love life when showing the photo. It was sickeningly detailed. This didn't sound at all like Josh. When I asked him what the hell was going on, he denied everything. He eventually got very angry and started calling all of my friends liars. At one point, he showed up at my place while some of them were visiting, and things got a little physical. It was really a very strange turn of events in my life. Josh seemed so worked up, and all of my close friends were calling him a liar. Josh did have photos of me on his phone, which I know is stupid, but we did it in the heat of the moment and everything. So I trusted my friends and I broke up with Josh. It was heart-wrenching. Josh begged me to believe him. He started tearing up, nearly punched the wall, and left angrily. I was really grossed out at the time and felt super conflicted. A few months later, I started dating one of my friends, Alex, who had told me about Josh showing everyone the photo. All of my friends were pushing me to date Alex at the time. We didn't really sing, and it didn't go past a few months, but we remained friends, of sorts. So today, another friend sends me a message that says that he wanted to get something off his chest. He said the story about Josh wasn't true, and they were really trying to get me to date Alex, so they made up that story about Josh. After talking to a few of the other people, including Alex, it all came out that they were lying. It was this effing orchestrated bullshit event that totally changed my life forever. Apparently they hated Josh and thought that he was bad for me and a butthole. But that's my effing decision. I'm shaking right now. I cried in the office bathroom for about 2 hours afterwards. I loved Josh so much. We were planning a life together. And I've been friends with that group since high school. What the F? I guess I'm supposed to stop talking to these friends, right? I can't possibly come back from this and still talk to them, right? This basically nukes my group of friends. But how could I even look at them again? Also, I need closure with Josh. Can I call him? Should I call him? Then, about 1 week later, OP posted an update. Even though everyone seemed to think this was a terrible idea, I sent Josh an email on Friday. I copied it here. Josh, I don't know if you're still connected to anyone on Facebook, but if you are, you probably already know why I'm sending this. And I know it's totally unfair and selfish to contact you, but I can't imagine going through the rest of my life without apologizing. So before I say a bunch of embarrassing things, more than anything, I want to say that I'm sorry that I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I let other people decide our relationship. I'm sorry for what I put you through. But I figured this might be my only chance to say this, so here comes the really lame, embarrassing stuff. I spent the past day thinking about the past year, where I would be if I had believed you and what my life would be like. Would we be engaged? Would we be married? I'm not over you. I want to try again. I'm not asking you to marry me, but if you ever find yourself thirsty, I would love to buy you a beverage of your choice. I want to talk to you again. I miss everything about our relationship. I miss you getting annoyed when I stole your french fries. I miss fighting with you over money. I miss making you breakfast. I miss watching The Office with you over and over and over. I miss you. My information is still the same. I wouldn't blame you if you ignored and deleted this. Just know that I know. I'm really sorry. So I sent the email and tried to take my mind off of it. Just writing it and sending it was extremely cathartic. I spent Saturday morning sitting around watching old movies when someone rang my doorbell. Assuming it was Amazon, I ignored it and waited for the delivery driver to leave so I could sneak out and grab the package since I was in my robe. After a minute or two, I walked over to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Josh. Obviously, my heart leapt in my throat. I had been compulsively checking my phone for a response, but I wasn't expecting something like this. Everything in my house, including me, was pretty disheveled. I cracked the door, smiled, said hi, and told him that I had to get dressed really quickly. What a terrible interaction. So I ran around my place throwing stuff into corners, pulled my hair back, found something to wear, and went back to the door. I'm here for that beverage. I only had orange juice and water, which was also pretty embarrassing, but Josh stuck around anyways. He didn't ask many questions, really. I started to talk about the nude photo incident, but he said that he didn't really care to talk about it. We both know all the details now. The conversation eventually grew a bit aimless, and we were just talking like old times. It was wonderful. He asked if I was hungry. I wasn't really hungry, but of course I said that I was. We went to a nearby burger place that we used to go to all the time. He did ask whether or not I had dated Alex. He didn't seem too upset by my answer. I asked him if he had dated anyone. He had a 6-month relationship in the interim. She sounded great, but I didn't pry. When we got back to my place, Josh asked me what I was doing for the rest of the day, and I said, I don't have any plans. We spent the rest of the day together. Then the night. It's totally stupid to move that fast, but I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it. I'm feeling happy. We spent part of Sunday together too. Then Tuesday and Wednesday. We discussed what we were doing. 2 single people dating each other was the consensus. Exclusive? Yes. I think the world of him, and I'll always regret what happened. No matter what though, I'm extremely happy that I sent the letter to him. It's interesting to think that if he had actually done what everyone accused him of, and then I took him back, I would probably have trust issues. Now, obviously, I trust him to the core. He could tell me the world was flat, and I'd have trouble questioning him. That's just a weird thought that I've been having. So, that's the story. We're together again. Will it work out? I hope so. No matter what, things are better today than they were last week. Wow, Josh sounds like a real winner here. I think he's probably more forgiving than I would have been. If I were in his shoes, I don't know if I could have gotten back with OP. Even if it was true love, that's a pretty painful betrayal. I do understand why OP listened because it's like 6 people against 1, but man, that would really sting if that happened to me. Our next Reddit post comes from rSlash Am I the Butthole? Am I the butthole for banning my husband and father-in-law from the delivery room due to their intensely stressful and creepy behavior during my pregnancy? My husband and I are expecting our first child, which I knew would be a really sensitive issue as his own mother died in childbirth with him. We met with a marriage counselor to talk things through at the beginning, and he swears that he's been seeing his own therapist twice a month throughout my pregnancy. I don't want to call him a liar, but I'm fairly sure he's either not going or not talking about the big issue. He and his father, who is a hugely active part of our lives, are completely convinced that I'm going to die in childbirth. They won't openly admit it, but their behavior has reached the point where it's constantly making me feel stressed and uncomfortable. When it was my husband saying, "Please make sure your life insurance is up to date, and I'd like you to meet with a lawyer and draft a will," I was like, that's kind of intense, but okay, if it makes you feel better. When my husband asked me to go through all my possessions and inventory what I wanted to be saved for the baby versus what I would want to be returned to my family in the event of my death, I put my foot down and said, absolutely not. This is just too morbid. No way. My father-in-law, who lives a few blocks away and eats dinner with us 2 to 4 nights a week, got on my case about how I was making things difficult for my husband in the event that he will be a grieving widower with a newborn. I'm just going to add here that I've had a completely complication-free pregnancy, and I have no reason to think that I'll die screaming in the coming weeks. When I tell my husband this, he calls me paranoid, but I feel like my father-in-law wants me to die. His whole life identity for the past 35 years has been amazing single dad. He's never dated or had close friends or even hobbies, really. And it seems like he's looking forward to being able to guide my husband through what he went through. At this point, I'd honestly be happy to never see my father-in-law again. And I certainly don't want him in the delivery room, especially since he told me he was putting his foot down about me not being allowed to have an epidural or laughing gas. He has a commanding presence, and I know that whatever he wants in the delivery room, he'll get. I know people will say, oh, labor and delivery nurses would never let that happen, but trust me, you haven't met this man. My husband, in addition to backing his dad on everything, acts like my due date is my death date and has completely pulled away from me. Every minute with him is morbid, stressful, and a reminder that our marriage seems to be crumbling. No matter how many times I tell him his behavior makes me stressed and upset, it just gets worse. And I do not want this energy around me when I'm concentrating on giving birth. Then 2 years later, OP posted an update, which is kind of funny because it led a lot of people in the comments of the original post to assume that OP did actually die. To get right to it, I was unfortunately right about my suspicion that my ex wasn't going to therapy. I sat down with him and very firmly put my foot down about my mother being my support person in the delivery room alongside him, and that my, thankfully, ex-father-in-law was not to be anywhere near the delivery room. I was also very adamant that I was getting an epidural, and my ex-father-in-law had no say about any medical procedures I may take. I also told him that I was seeking my own therapist, as his and his father's actions were worrying me. My ex-husband did not take that well, to put it simply. I had never heard him shout at me like that, and it scared me a little. My fury outweighed my fear not long after, however. He told me that I didn't need a therapist, that he was just trying to be prepared. I admittedly lost my temper and told him that I wasn't gonna die. It wasn't my fault that his father's trauma wormed its way into his head, and that he needed to fix it without taking it out on me. He yelled at me that he didn't need therapy. That caught me a little off guard. I asked him why he went to his therapist and was given advice about my death if he didn't feel like he needed it. His expression gave it away, and he caved not long after. It turns out there was no therapist. It was just his dad. During the times that he was supposed to be at therapy, he was with his dad. I'm still fuming. In the end, I gave him a choice. He could either go to therapy or I was leaving. I had enough of their delusions. He chose to refuse therapy, and I packed my things up and stayed with my mother. At that point, I still wasn't planning on divorce. I had hoped that we could possibly fix our marriage, as naive as that sounds. But my ex decided that if he couldn't convince me to go back, then he would get his father and the rest of his family to do it. I had to change my number due to the amount of harassment and vitriol they hurled at me. In the end, it was just my mother in the delivery room as I gave birth. I'm thankful for the nursing staff. They were a godsend, and I felt safe that neither my ex or his father would get even remotely close to the room without my say-so. The divorce is still ongoing, so I can't give too many details on that front, but I have hopes that we can work out a tentative co-parenting agreement. My ex isn't a bad father. He loves our baby girl, but our relationship is done. And for as long as I live, my ex-father-in-law will never be near my daughter. Alright, one thing that was surprisingly never brought up in the entire post is, from the husband's perspective, if you genuinely 100% believe that your wife is going to die in childbirth, why would you knock her up? I mean, did he cry a little bit every time he finished? Oh, it felt good, but I hope I didn't kill you, sweetie. This is just really weird behavior out of OP's husband and his dad. That was r/Best of Redditor updates, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.